Good evening. A little bit of a late start, but you know, better late than never, right? Kasab VCU, if that is your real name. VCU. Sounds fake. Made up. Alrighty. Got a little dog under my feet who's had his evening something to snack on. So I think we're ready to roll. Right? So where was I? I wanted to rethink that. I saw something interesting today. I was thinking about this. I think it's a little too similar to Manola thing. So thought I should back off that a little bit. Actually, I want to do this smaller, I think. Probably just get a little bit more scale on this. Good evening. Gets more interesting. Than what I had before, so so where do those crystals go that I took a picture of? So zoom in here where I'm going to work in for a while, so that's a little easier to see, right? A couple little zones up here. Good evening. Those popping in. Good evening. See, triangle, just to give ourselves a border to pivot off of. Good evening. Yeah, you should let me know if there's any questions or comments. Probably zoom in tighter up top too, huh? So we're just gonna be working in here. go. I'm gonna scoot you over. There you go. Good evening, getting happy Wednesday. Alright, week's moving along, I think. It is always nice. That feels better. I like where this is kind of dividing up. Maybe this could be a little shorter. There's some scale for you. It's red. So it's a 2mm red lead. I think this is Uniball. Yeah, it's this stuff right here. Unifield red, 2mm. So just it's colored pencil. It's just that it's in a convenient holder, so I don't have to put it into a wood sharpener and worry about things breaking on the inside and all of that. It's got a nice kind of warmth to it too, which I like. Skosh taller. Yeah, so I like it. You know, I have a blue one that it pairs well with, but also, you know, good for inking prep, if you will. So, yeah, kind of like switched to a lot of these color. I like color pencils, but I didn't like sharpening the wood ones and finding out they were broken inside all the time. And then, you know, these are nice because they're like, you know, regular pencil leads that you can kind of draw on the side with, which is also, you know, nice. So, plan out the shadows here a little bit. Help the subject pop out there a little bit. Yeah, so definitely recommend it if you know try it out. This is Uniball 2-point or Uni 2-point lead. I bought a red holder just so you know remember which one it's in, just to make my life a little bit simpler. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, they have these. You know, they have these in regular leads too, of course, right? It's your Staedtler 2mm pencil leads. Yeah, I got to wondering if they had colored pencil ones a while ago, so I was like, oh, they do. You have the blue ones too. So if you're, you know, this is a regular Staedtler one. It's nice and heavy, but I put a little blue cap in there so I know that there's blue on the inside. I appreciate that, G the machine. So a little bit of a blue, got the red over here. So I'm probably gonna ink this though using the Hunt 102. Similar. This is just a quick little sketch. You know, it's not very big, but you know, kind of similar to what I did with that one. Maybe a combo of the two. I've been working on this little concept project here for a while, and you know, thinking about doing a graphic novel, and I got an initial treatment for a longer story, but because I really haven't done many comic things, I thought it'd be wise to do a shorter one. So I roughed up some thumbnails the other day. I'm gonna go back to it, but I thought I would look at designing some of the locations real quick. So the brief story of the whole thing is that humanity has colonized this planet, another solar system far, far away from Earth. And they arrived there on a kind of a generation ship, so people kind of lived and worked and had kids and passed away over the course of hundreds of years on a ship. And then when they arrive at this planet, they run into some trouble and they crash. And you kind of get separated into different factions. Some people survived, some people didn't. The story written up is like originally it was set much, much later. This one is say a couple hundred years later rather than say 500 or so years later. But they're still kind of recovering stuff on this planet. The planet itself is somewhat strange. So it looks like a giant tangle of plants, like a bramble. That's the name brambleSketch, if you're seeing that somewhere. And so they call the planet Bramble, or that's my working title anyway. I might come up with something better later, but I think that kind of works for now. Anyway, they arrive on this planet, and there's kind of an evidence for a former civilization in the form of these, I call them totems, maybe much larger ones that are called vaults. For now, it's kind of a working name. And it's evidence of an older civilization, but that's the only evidence left behind. Like, there's nothing else. And so humanity kind of settles in, but they're very curious about these totems and vaults, of course. And in this case, there's a relic of the colony ship that has, when it crashed, it kind of crashed into one of them and got split apart. And so the idea with this little short story is there's a guy who's going out to check it out, see if there's anything worth salvaging now that it's been located, and see what he can do with it, with the ship. So that's kind of the rough little story I put together. I want to do like a bunch of these little short, kind of 5-ish page stories before I jump into the main one. I think that would be beneficial for me. And so I've been working on this. Anyway, I saw someone else's design. I don't want it to look like the design I saw today, but I saw something similar to kind of what I've been working on. And I like some of the things that she kind of brought to it, but I've also been looking at these crystals and things I saw at the American Museum of Natural History and the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. So thought I would incorporate those two things together. So yeah, so this is the crash site. What I've got going on here. Kind of these giant crystalline or amber-like structures, just sticking out of the ground in various locations. They're clearly not natural. So that's kind of the little treatment I put together in the little visual thumbnails over there on the side. But I wanted to design a couple things for it. So maybe the character, a couple locations, and the ship. Something I'm kind of, maybe slightly less invested in. So, yeah, do let me know if there's any questions while I'm working. Always helps for topics of conversation, but that's the gist of what I'm doing. Anybody else working on their arts? out there tonight. But yeah, I definitely wanted to get this down before I forgot about it, so I was thinking about it this afternoon or evening. I was like, you know, I should give this thing a try. Let's see what I can come up with. Yeah, if you see some of the other kind of concept-y things I've been working on, you'll see similar structures. No? You're not working on anything. That's terrible. That's no fun at all. I need to clean you off, apparently. So again, just audio. Nope. All right. And question answered. All right, get your stuff out. Get working, right? You know, you live in have a magical time when you can do just about anything. In spite of, you know, the troubling things out there, you know, the kind of all the AI nonsense and all that, there's still like more opportunity to do more things, I think, than's ever been. And I'm excited about that. Looking forward to my summer. We're coming up on the end of the semester, and so it means I've got a nice good summer in front of me. Which should be hopefully very, very productive. I'm looking forward to most everything, not everything, but you know, some troubles out there, but nothing that I can really do anything about. So what would you work on if you're working on your own little project? If you had some something you wanted to make. Don't know where to start, huh? Where did you leave off? What did you stop with? So that might tell you where to begin. It's hard to start at the end, so it's always helpful to go back to the beginning, right? I started playing around with this project, I think 2.5, 3 years ago. It wasn't this at all, it was just kind of an idea about a way things might work. And that's where I started on this, but what I do know is I do have a very sleepy dog under my feet, huh, Bosh? Which is always nice to have a little friend under your feet. Oh yeah, what was your degree? Where'd you go to school? Did you study art or something else? Cogswell College, huh? I've never heard of that one. Are they something else now? So it couldn't have been too long ago if it was digital art. So did you want to do animation or illustration or concept or painting? I'm not familiar with that school. But it was like a 2-year college or something out in California. I've never been to much school-wise out there. I'm familiar with a couple of the larger universities and things, but Because like a private school or a public like university. Did you have good teachers there? Private, oh, okay. Oh, Full Sail. Yeah, Full Sail I know is for profit. I think they. I don't know if they did, if they continued with it or not, but I know they started like a small art school in the Salt Lake City area that I almost taught at. Um, but that was a long time ago. I think they're attached to, was it Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design? So what kind of illustration were you looking at? Like editorial or like book covers or children's books? Um, oh, okay. Yeah, we've got a couple of ILM alum here at my school, people that worked for them in the past. One worked on Empire Strikes Back, and the other on Jurassic Park at some point. They've worked on a bunch of other things too, but those are kind of extremely notable in my mind, anyway. One was an effects guy. The other one was a storyboard person. Um, I've never had the privilege of working on that quite big of a project, and I was focused more on like game concept stuff coming out of school. Worked at an illustration studio for a couple of years, and then went on to work at Avalanche Studios, which was then owned by Disney. Actually, initially when I first worked with them, they were an independent studio, and then they were bought by Disney, and then Disney got rid of all their game studios a few years back. They were acquired by Warner Brothers and did that Harry Potter game, a year or two ago, something like that. Um, but yeah, if you're interested in illustration, one thing that you might want to do is head over to the Society of Illustrators and grab an annual or two by them. So they put out annuals based off of their juried shows every year, and can get those annuals. There's just a ton of amazing publishing illustration going on in them, and it's interesting the kind of the volume and the variety of stuff that's in there. And in the face of what many people think is like a big problem for illustration, which is the AI thing, which it has its own problems, of course, but that is causing. But oh yeah, with Ian McKay, he's actually coming out here in a couple weeks. We met up with him in Lightbox this fall, and now we're bringing him out for a workshop and lecture and stuff at the for our program at the university in about a week and a half. So we're excited for that. Doing a little presentations on storytelling, which should be helpful for me. Hopefully our students. Well, yeah, it's where maybe you look back. One of the things that's easiest to do in terms of like getting started, especially with like portfolio stuff, is looking back at your old work and kind of reworking it based off of things you understand better now. Or look at your old work and say, hey, maybe these were areas that I could improve. So it could be, maybe you're drawing of characters or environments or storytelling, a whole host of potential things, and that can kind of point you at where to go. Because usually, what points me in the right direction to go is the things that I'm not very good at or don't feel as confident in, and that's always kind of a good indicator of something that I can spend time on for myself. Yeah, we had breakfast with him out there, and he hung out with us for like a couple hours one of the days, and it was just really fantastic. Very inspiring fellow. And excited to see what he has to say. But yeah, lots of energy. Yeah, he went to go do like a run after spending a couple hours talking to us. He's gonna run like a couple miles or something. He does like 50 push-ups a day or something to stay healthy. But yeah. But he's definitely a big inspiration for a lot of people. He's done some incredible things. He's created memorable characters, right? Even in not so great movies. You remember his designs and how they got put into the films, like Darth Maul. That was his baby, or his sketch, his drawing that came up with that, and it had a lot of resonance. It still does. That's pretty rare, to have that kind of impact on things. But yeah, so that's a good place to start. Just kind of maybe going back and looking at old stuff and reworking it, and then looking at it and saying, well, or even before then, just like I say, I'm not very good at this, or this was not so great in my old stuff. So maybe that's a good place to start, and following your weaknesses. So that way, because one of the things that kind of can get people down is they can get overwhelmed by the things that they don't feel as good about, right? So they can look at their work and they're like, oh, I'm terrible at this and I'm terrible at that, and I kind of suck over here, or this other person is so much better than I am at X, Y, or Z thing. But all that's really telling you is where you need to go. That's what they kind of say about anxiety, right? Anxiety isn't so much a warning, it's just letting you know you're entering unfamiliar territory. And another word for unfamiliar territory is an opportunity for adventure. Because you just don't know. It's like, if I go into like a new store that I've never been into, I always feel a little strange because I don't know what to look at or where to go. And then people tell me, oh, you do you need help? And I'm like, I don't know. Oh yeah? I'll have to ask him about that because hadn't heard that story. Again, you never know. And one of the things that I've been trying to emphasize to the faculty here, because we've been reworking one of our programs, is that I think there's a really good reason to adjust some of our courses to use more analog media like this. That I think we kind of set it aside to the harm of our students, because I look at the people that really make a lot of impactful stuff. the designs and the concepts we go back to, they were trained and used extensively, the analog media, pencils and brushes and markers and all of that. And and I think there's something to be said for. I think part of it is the challenge of mastering it, the fact that it reduces your options. That you have to make certain kinds of choices, and because of that, because of the challenge of mastery and your kind of necessity to make final choices, with each stroke and each moment you have, it kind of I think it helps you develop better as an artist, just because it requires more from you. And I think a lot of times, we get fixated on the digital, and I do a lot of digital stuff, but we get, fixated on it because it is fast, it's easy, it's easy to make adjustments and updates. Oh yeah, spilled ink. Huh? Well, that's kind of funny, because that's one of the ways I teach composition is with ink blots. Actually, maybe that's the name, because I've been calling them no-tan blobs, but I think I'm going to start calling them ink or no-tan blots. I think that's a better name now that I've thought about that. Not really doing it here, but I am treating it that way to a certain degree. I'll knock this all out with tone. But yeah, it's about learning to kind of take advantage of what you have. So, if we look at all the really great concept artists like Ralph McQuarrie or Sid Mead, I mean, like, they're making another Tron movie, and that's, Sid Mead all over the place. And Mobius, of course, too. All that stuff resonating forward, and they're all, markers and pens and pencils and brushes and all that. Yeah, well, you kind of have to make a decision at some point, right? And that's where the BS comes in, where you just have well, this is what we're going with. It's one of the things I like to point out about the nonsense of so-called AI art. People are like, oh, it's so efficient. It gives you all these incredible options to choose from. And I'm like, well, infinite options aren't very helpful. So being able to generate an unending flood of images, especially ones that you can't really direct, and it doesn't look like you're ever going to really be able to do that. And because of that, it doesn't really make any sense to use it to a certain degree, in my opinion anyway. But the problem you're running into is that infinite number of options, and a lot of what I've talked to with people who like using it is their attitude seems to be that they believe, I don't believe this, but they believe that they're kind of going to be the curators of these systems. And I've always said, if it continues on the trajectory that they project, which I don't think is actually accurate, but, let's say it is, there won't be any need for a creative director, because it'll simply have enough information, if it has access to the right kind, to make all of the creative decisions. We've had, curatorial AI for 20, 30 years. I had Music Match as a student, which would recommend music styles and things based off of, the things I'd been listening to, using tags. It was, a curatorial system. So I think this idea that they're going to need curators or have any interest in it, they don't want them. but again, what a client usually needs is, a small number of well considered, well constructed, well understood options, and not this kind of flood of unusable information and data. And I think that's the thing is, if you're a good designer and you're a knowledgeable person and you've got good skills and professionalism, that's something you can easily provide for a client, and with more efficacy and less time than it takes for a prompt jockey to do their thing. With a greater degree of usefulness. If the work doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter, and that's a whole other thing. Like if the studios don't care about their films or their games, the quality that's going into them, or the potential that they need from them. If they don't care about that, that's a whole other problem that they're having. That's usually not the kind of person you want to work for anyway, or work with. So, it's just a good warning sign of who to avoid to a certain degree. But so something to kind of keep in mind. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Because I think what they're trying, a lot of what the people that promote it, they tend to be CEOs, and they don't understand the creative process at all. For a lot of them, it's just like, well, what's the bottom line? How do I get there the quickest? And they're like, oh, this might be an opportunity to reduce cost and improve profit margins and all the things that add longevity and benefits from having a company or being in control of one. They're like, oh, if we can do all these things, then that's going to be beneficial for us and our shareholders and other stakeholders and all that. But that hasn't been the case, at least not yet. But I say, with your work, go look at your portfolio and say, oh, these were areas that I wasn't very good with, maybe things that your teachers told you on a fairly consistent basis to work on. But one thing you do is just start sketching. Keep a sketchbook, get a small sketchbook that you can keep in your pocket with a pen, and plan on filling a page a day. Get a little field notebook or something like that, and just kind of commit to filling it up. And they're not very big. And that can be a great way. You can buy those in packs of 3 of different types on Amazon. They fit in a pocket really well. Just don't let them fall out of your pocket, which has never ever happened to me, except for all the times that it has happened to me. I use them for scheduling. So I have a graph, kind of, it's like a dot matrix graph paper one. That I like to use. In fact, I need to update it for this week. But that'd be that's just like a good default thing to do, and just take it with you and fill it up. Draw things you see in life. Draw images you like, or things you see on online on Instagram. Copy photographs you think are interesting. Make a Pinterest page of portraits or figures or costumes that you like. Be wary of all the AI that's flooded those locations, but draw real things. Draw a box and fill it in with whatever's in front of you. Was that Paul Heaton or Paul Heston guy? He's got his little sketchbook and he draws cars out of his car. Sitting in traffic or at a meeting or side of the road having lunch. And that's always nice. Do I have things that inspire me? Many things. Real world things. My students. The other people I get to work with. Everyday things that I see around me. Sometimes I get manipulated by algorithms to do things. So I kind of took a little bit of a break from doing art stuff because I was building out my SUV as a micro camper. And so that was very inspiring for me because I learned a whole bunch of new things, electricity and plumbing and sewing and woodworking at a level I hadn't, done before, especially some of the other things I hadn't done ever before, like really never any sewing or woodworking. Well, woodworking, yes, a little bit, but nothing with hardwood. And electricity and plumbing I'd never done before either. It's a lot of work. That was a result of Google listening in and then recommending a bunch of videos after a conversation on a road trip with a friend. Not that I'm too upset, I'm glad it's a project I did, but I like to take it to go landscape painting. In fact, maybe I'll pull these out while I have a second here if people are still hanging about. But I got to do like paintings like that. So let me pull that back a little bit. We're not in any particular hurry. Pull that back. There we go. So there's a little landscape painting. Smallish, not too big. That's from last year. These ones aren't quite done. I was hoping to spend more time on them, like do a couple sessions with them. But these are done from, direct observation. Just didn't dry fast enough when I was out there, so might go back. It should be turning green though, so it'll be a different situation. Or, this one right here. This one I was pretty happy with. It was really weird kind of being out there because that early springtime, there wasn't anything green on the trees, so it was like super bright inside the forest. Here's some gouache. That was from the same trip. This is a little heavy-handed, more than I like. Couldn't get it to dry in the winter, but I kind of like the atmosphere. But these kind of pictures. These are gouache. The other ones, this is oil. Let me grab the oil ones. The oil ones are on the paper with the yellow borders. So this is oil. So you can see this is very matte down here. And these are kind of shiny. And that's oil. Oil paint. I guess what I'm ambivalent about. It's like, no, they don't all turn out great. Like that one's okay. I like this one. I've been using sumi brushes to paint with, and they kind of have a nice gesture to them. That one's okay. I didn't like where I was positioned, but there was a bunch of people out there. That was an experiment in composition. These take 2-3 hours to do. I was pretty happy with this one though. This is like 2-3 hours. That one's a little bit of a mess. The contrast is too high, but whatever. This one was just too windy. It wasn't able to fight the clouds the right way. I'm happy with that one though. Nice little forest basin one. I was happy with that one as well. That was a good trip going out for these. But I've been doing gouache paintings forever. This is just a small Moleskine sketchbook. That's a watercolor paper inside, and so I have a whole little gouache painting kit that I bring on my little camping trips in my truck, and use that. I think this is another book of these. Started redoing these a couple of years ago, but pretty happy with this one. These were ones I kind of did during the pandemic. It's a little sloppy, but you know, it's okay. One of the few paintings I did in Florida. This was my backyard when I was living down there. Portion of my yard during the pandemic times, towards the end. And I started doing like trips in my truck up to North Georgia because I was living in Florida, and so I'd go to North Georgia and do some these little painting trips. I was pretty happy with some of these. Try a little pointillism, impressionism experiment there, you know, sideways. But again, this is up in the Natanhala National Forest, up in kind of North Georgia, and was it little into North Carolina, I think. A little heavy-handed. This place had a great view. I didn't have time to capture it, but this was like in Florida. Actually, I guess third painting. I did this in Florida really quick, but that doesn't count, and that was a bit of a mess. I was happy with this one, but I got COVID, or came down with COVID right after I did that. So I think I picked up COVID just before that spring break. I drove up to this campsite, had a really good day of painting and hanging out with my dog. And then I had a huge fever, and I didn't know why. There's my other Florida painting. And this is Utah. Some more Utah. This is how my paintings usually start. So I didn't get to finish this one, but I was trying to make it too complicated. I was pretty happy with this one though. Nice little fallen log. These are all done from, you know, me sitting on location. So I'm not doing these. These aren't from photos. These are, you know, me on location, sketching. You know, like these little forest floor shots. Back out in the desert, it was a little windy, so sometimes if like the weather's a bit much, like it's distracting. Like this one was just super windy. There was sand blowing everywhere. That was okay-ish. And here we're back in Virginia. Pretty happy with this one. It's like the end of a log. Well, one I just like doing it. So what kind of got me started with, especially gouache painting and landscape painting in general. It's down. Well, some of it might be up here, I think, actually. Maybe I can go grab it. It's downstairs. But I have like a little map bag that everything's inside of. Out on the James River here in Richmond. Back up in the forest. Pretty happy with that one. I like to go back to this location. There's a bunch of stuff there, like, you know, like painting this. It was pretty fun. Yeah, I can run downstairs and grab it. It's just downstairs. But so that's a book I filled up. But it was something I started doing when I was in school. I would do like super small ones, like, you know, ones like this big, like smaller than this drawing. And so did I leave my little blush paints up here? Or are they down in the kit? Must be down in the kit because I was using it recently. I'll be right back. Run down and grab that. Alright. Let me move the sketchbook out of the way. And I'll drop this down here. And pull back on the lens up above a little bit. Give it a little bit more support. doesn't fall off the table, and I'm going to put this ink away in the bottle so it doesn't jump on me. This is my kit here. Let me pull back on the camera on the phone a little more. So that's the bag I keep everything in, and so like that one sketchbook needs to go back in here. Yeah, where's my gouache? Oh, there it is back there. All right, good. So in terms of the kit, this is the bag itself. It's a map bag. I got it at an army surplus place. The strap doesn't quite match it, but it's close enough. So down here, the bottom, this is a little stool. So I just strapped this stool into the base. You can see there's the top of it there, and the feet are down on the other end. So that's just strapped to the bottom. Pins on here mostly come from Kickstarters and then museums. So like this Brigham Young Museum of Art, the Met over there, Natural History Museum, or Smithsonian Natural History Museum, Lightbox. I have a bigger one too, somewhere. This is the Natural History Museum, for the National Gallery, I believe. I like Natural History Museums. This is the American Museum of Natural History, right there. And then inside, I've got a sketchbook. So again, it's not too big, about the size of my hand. So there's a good spot to stick this stuff. And then I've got some tape. So if you wonder how to get those clean edges, I have not been to France. I have been to the Prado though. So this is just some artist tape, and I use that to, put the borders on things. This is my water bucket. It's a dog bowl. Actually, I got this bowl in Hong Kong along with that stool when I lived in Hong Kong. And then mostly I've actually just been really using mostly cheap brushes. So this is a cheap set of synthetic brushes I bought, and then a lot of what I've been using are these Sumi brushes for a lot of the painting, because you can get really, really sharp points on it, but also kind of do washes and things at the same time. So I've been using these a lot, and they're quite inexpensive. I like them a lot, and I've got a larger kind of wash brush right here and a smaller Sumi brush. So I'll tend to just use like a couple brushes in there, and then I have a water bladder that I use for carrying my water around. I like this because it gets smaller, right? So as I fill it up, and I can keep it drinkable water in here, so I can drink it if I'm on a larger trip or something. But I like it because, again, when I get to the end of the trip, it's gotten smaller. It's not taking up as much room. And then inside of here, let's see, here's a trash bag I could probably throw away. These doggy bags for my trash bags. So I've got extra ones up here. And then this is my palette. I used to use the smaller one. I'll show you the other one I used to use because I've got watercolors in it. But I put this one in here. So I've got a range of colors. I haven't really used this one very much. But I've got a good range of, I keep my earth tones down here and my chromatic colors up here. And then they're also in rainbow order. So, yellow, orange, red, purple, kind of purpley, well, not really purple, pink, and then purpley reds, and then purple and blue. These are two different blues. This is Prussian blue, sky blue, and then a couple of greens. One's a viridian, the other one's sap. It's a nice amount of working space, and I just squeeze. I buy empty they're called half pans. I buy empty ones and then use those to fill things up with. And then this other pack of cheap brushes. Which I don't know if I've used these ones. Looks like I've used one of them. I should get some better brushes, but that's just what I have in here. And then I have these smaller watercolor pads. Looks like this one has one sheet left, so I should probably use it. So sometimes I'll do like a couple of these at the same time, depending on what's going on. There's a mostly empty one, or mostly unused one. And then in here is some sketching stuff for a sketchbook. So it's just pens and markers and things like that. Let's see, I got a lot of stuff here. I can compact this down so it's just the gouache stuff in a smaller bag. This is watercolor in here. So I used to have a second one of these that I used for my gouache. So I had a second one that was just like this. Got it somewhere around here. Maybe I gave it away, I don't remember. But I used someone like this for my gouache. I decided I just could use a little bit more room. Yeah, rainbow order is definitely important. It kind of helps you keep track of who's what, right? Paper towels, extra ones. I tear them in half just so that I don't use them up as quickly. And a ruler. So that's kind of what I keep in my kit for that, along with the pad of gouache stuff. So it all fits in here, and this is relatively inexpensive. I have a smaller bag I've used to use in the past. What's nice about this one is I can strap, the little cushion on the little seat on there. But great, I just sling it on and head out, and I've got everything I need inside. Actually, I have another sketchbook around here. Like I've been sticking in here lately too, but. So it's just sketching stuff too, so it's not all just the painting stuff. It's sketchbooky stuff too. Guess I could throw that away while I've got it out. Just stick you there until I can put you in a better place. And paper towels to reload in there, and then the current book, this one right here, should just go inside with everybody else. So that's the gouache kit. I have an oil one too, but it's in a backpack. Yeah, but the rainbow order definitely makes a difference because it's kind of like painting with musical scales. And so if you put things kind of light to dark, warm to cool, and follow the rainbow, and then I separate them by temperature. Also, I've got the locking pin backings in here, so I don't lose anything. But that's my little gouache kit on there. Yeah, so it's pretty simple. I've got another bag somewhere. I don't usually carry it around just because it's heavy, but it's all the paint tubes. But I usually keep that separate just because I fill up that make sure it's filled up before I go somewhere. Before I go out on a specific painting activity, I guess. But I have a bag, that has all of my paint tubes in it somewhere around here. But yeah, it's something I started when I was in undergrad, and it was something I did by myself. Because I saw an artist named Eric Tiemens, that he did gouache in his his studies, and I saw the gouache paintings in the Lord of the Rings Art of book as well. And I was like, oh, maybe I should look at this whole gouache thing. And I think I had some left over from a color theory class when I was a freshman, and so I used those initially. And that was like my starter kit. And then I didn't have any teachers that really did it, so I just started doing it on my own, and looking at what other people were doing. And there wasn't even really like a lot of YouTube at the time either. But I was like, hey, if this artist I really like is using this like activity for themselves to improve and enjoy, maybe I should give it a try. And so I started doing a bunch of like micro ones, really, really small paintings. This is not, this one over here could feel like it is, definitely, but it's not. In fact, that's why I'm kind of pulling off of that other one over there, because it did feel a little bit like that Hellboy thing, right? Where the Agra do live, the dragon. What the bad guys are always trying to hatch. But it's not that. So I'm trying to shift directions, but I saw something interesting today that I wanted to use a little bit that was different. and then kind of reshape these crystals into something a little bit more like a flower, while still also feeling very crystalline. So I picked some pictures at the Natural History Museum in their like crystals area, looking at those. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so like I have my own little story. I was talking to some people about it before, and it's actually one of the helpful ways of working is to have like a world building project that you kind of build out from, rather than like doing something entirely new every day. It's not that you can't do other things, but it helps to have like one thing that you're mostly working on. And anyway, the story here is that these are, I'm calling them totems, and basically, this chair keeps rolling back. So I'm actually at an angle, so I'm not, if you were looking at a flat table, my table's actually up like this. It's hard to tell from your point of view, but anyway, yeah, there's anyway, it's about humanity is kind of settled on this planet, very far away from Earth, and on the planet there's evidence of a prior civilization, but they appear to be gone, and all that's left are these strange objects, and I'm calling them totems, and they're clearly like not natural. They're very alien, so they shouldn't feel like they're something we necessarily recognize as being man-made, but they're clearly not naturally occurring. And so that's what. So this is one of those. Anyway, I was working on a longer story, and I kind of realized, well, I'm working on this. Well, actually, I've been kind of reducing it in scale. So I had this like original like gigantic story. Like, well, let's simplify that down. And simplifying it down turned it into like 50 pages eventually, which is still a lot. Let's see, might be time for a new nib here coming up. But so I was like, well, I could use something simpler than that. And so kind of looking at this world building project, I've had a lot of thoughts on kind of what's going on with it. And anyway, so I've got like a simpler one, and basically it's a guy who's going out. So humanity is settled on this planet again, like I was saying, and the other story I was writing like happens much later than even this one does. Let's say it's like 100 years after humans have settled on here, and they're still having difficult times, but they're getting by okay. But anyway, this guy is going out. He's maybe some kind of scavenger, so he's looking around for things that people can use, and he finds an old section of their crashed colony ship, and it's kind of crashed into one of these totems, and it ripped it apart. So he's out there investigating that. So I wrote a little short story about him kind of landing and walking over. Drew in thumbnail form a short story about that. Which I have actually over here on the side. It's nothing much to look at. Like, it's just notes that only make sense to me. But it's just, I want to do something much shorter. So there's page 1, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then like back cover inside, back cover outside. Yeah, so just something much shorter. Wanted to see if I can't do a handful of those. So I don't have a lot of writing experience, so I thought it'd be helpful to do kind of a handful of these shorter stories first. So this is just a rough sketch. I'm not really referencing too much. Well, this right here is, again, it's a totem. And so it's just there. But they're really, like, they're basically, almost impossible to manipulate, move, or damage. So the idea here is the ship kind of crashed into one, And at least that's the idea in my head at the moment. You know, they're extremely durable. As the thought. I mean, I know what they are. Yeah, I'm not gonna shut it. You know, I won't delete it unless you know there's some kind of corruption issue and Instagram breaks it. But you can catch it over on YouTube if you want, like kind of a more full screen experience over at My Art Professor on YouTube. You can see kind of in my linked comment down there. My Art Professor is kind of my teaching website, myartprofessor.com. Mostly stuff on perspective. It's kind of based around the courses I taught at Ringling when I was there for a few years. I actually need to finish getting the last part done, which I think I'm going to focus on once school's out. I was going to do it earlier, and then I ended up teaching an extra class this semester, which kind of threw everything out of the schedule. But yeah, please check that out if you've got a minute. But yeah, the YouTube, go over there, give that a follow. Still haven't reached, I don't got that many subscribers on there. I think it's a little over 400 now, which I'm not really doing regular videos, just live streams over there. So yeah, that's not optimal, I guess, for growth. But yeah, you're welcome to go check that out. Or you know, it should be here too. Just sometimes, you know, the way Instagram works, sometimes things will crash and videos disappear. I also use Graham and Winsor Newton gouaches, if you're wondering about the brands. Similar with the watercolors too. Yeah, so hopefully it'll be there for you later on. Was it 9:30? All right, not doing too bad. Yeah, the goal with the comic is to do it all traditional media. Yeah, except for maybe the coloring. Maybe the lettering, I'll have to see. I've tried doing some traditional lettering on a short 7-page thing I did a while back. Good evening. I appreciate that. Just a little sketch, right? Okay, let's get these more vertical lines in here. So, yeah, it's a handy little tool, this Hunt 102 nib. This is really fine, kind of intense lines on here. Trying to show the thing's been here for a while. It's, you know, not only is it damaged, but it's got like stuff growing on it already. Yeah, just let me know if there's any questions out there. Anything lingering that I can be of assistance with. Oh yeah? What's your comic about? Part of what got me thinking about it was I was just working on a concept portfolio update, and then as I was working, I kept thinking of stories to tell. You know, it kind of would feed my imagination. And so I was like, well, what if I did do one? You know, or did some of them. I know like a lot of the students are really into them at my university. I like reading comics and things, of course, but I haven't really thought much about doing them. I was like, well, you know, if I did try it out, see what happens, maybe do if I like it enough, or if I think it's interesting enough, maybe put it in front of some people, or do a Kickstarter or something like that. See what happens. Because you never know, right? How are you doing for time? 9:35, huh? Quite difficult to make it look this easy. Well, you know, I do certain things to make it simpler for me, because I'm not, you know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. You know, I'm not the brightest crown in the box. So, you know, I have to use silly tricks and things to make me feel like I'm doing good work. So like controlling my, you know, value patterns and paying attention to the form and the parts of the light. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Interdimensional, huh? Alternate realities. So they're gonna come and visit our society? Is he gonna have a sidekick named Morty? So I believe in the Rick and Morty cartoons, the one that Rick is actually from originally, or no, it's Morty. The main Morty that we follow in the show, like his world is a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And then there's well, there's Sliders, right? If you ever watched that show, where they would go into alternate realities. One where like I remember like red was go and green was stop. It's hard for me even just to say that out loud. That was weird. Let's get a holding line around this foreground thing here. Just to keep it in front of that background. There we go, now it's starting to pop a little bit better. Yeah, I think there's a million stories that can be told out there. I think there's still a lot of room for people to do interesting things. In fact, I think there's more room now than there's probably ever been. Yeah, more opportunity. Which I think is exciting. I think a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the problems we're having, but I look around and it's still like, compared to 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 30 years ago, there's just so much that anyone can do these days. It's kind of ridiculous that anyone has a down attitude about it. Called it Alone. I'm not familiar with that one. Not as familiar with European comics. So I know American stuff pretty well, but and then some Japanese manga, like Akira and a few others that are like that, Berserk. They've got all the Berserk hardcovers here. I've read Witch Hat Atelier, which is surprisingly good. Those are kind of the main ones that I'm familiar with. In terms of international, got a bunch of like Rick Remender books, library editions. Read a lot of anything by Sean Gordon Murphy and Danny Warren Johnson and what's his face, James Herron. Really like their art. Greg Tokini. Like Tokini, he's Brazilian, but he's got a really great style. Be careful. I tend to overwork things a little bit, like I should just hold back a bit more than I do. Oh yeah? Tried reading one of the books, Blame. I was like, I hope, well, maybe it gets better, but I read the first one. I wasn't that impressed by it. I know people like it. I think I saw an animated version on Netflix at some point. Been rereading Bone. I would say definitely this is your classic comic book nib. This is the Hunt 102 nib, Crowquill pen nib. It's a kind of a classic nib. Has a lot of flexibility to work with. But let's see, 943. See, let's go ahead and put the date on here. It's the 9th. Man, this month is just getting away. This year is just getting away from us, right? It's already April. Like, where did the time go? I've been busy too, but just feels like the time's just evaporating this year. Been busy, so that's part of it. And haven't been able to move certain things forward that I wanted to. Let's get that nice and drilled down on the sides. Maybe put a little value on here with the red. Push some of that back a little bit. Call it mixed media, right? That's what the kids call it these days, the mixed media. A tower dungeon, huh? Yeah, my only complaint with like manga stuff is some of the tropes they use in it, like the chibi faces and some of that stuff I don't like as much. But that's just maybe just me. Sometimes it feels just it's like too symbolic. It's like my dog wants something; he's hanging out under my feet, moving around. He's probably hoping for a little something extra, but he's not going to get it because we're just going to go straight to bed after this. Oh, Bosh. I think that helped kind of organize things a little bit. Maybe throw a little blue on there, look. Blue always looks nice. Combined with the red. That way we can kind of push that behind the totem here a little bit. You can feel the scratchiness of the pen nib scratching the paper. That helps pop it out a little bit more. Just a little warm, a little cool, and voila. Get our concentration in that area. So travel-wise, I haven't traveled on a plane with my oils. I have a bag, a backpack downstairs that I keep everything in. I have it's like a fish tackle box it's like a flat one, like for crafts or something like that. I keep my paints in and my brushes. And then I have a palette. The palette kind of squeezes down to be about that thick. It's a wooden palette, and then I keep my tripod on the side. The palette that I have, the easel that I use, they don't make it anymore. I think the company disappeared a couple years ago, sometime during the pandemic. I think the guy just kind of got old. Open box, but there's a number of companies that make similar kind of flat folding easels. It's not a French easel, it's a kind of this flat painting easel. And I've had it for a long time. I like it. I think I've had it almost 20 years. I think about like 2006 or 5 or something like that. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. But yeah, so I have that, and then I've got a paint a canister for my solvent, and it has a rubber seal on it so it doesn't spill. And that all sits in a bag, and it's just in a big backpack that I just throw on my bag. It's like a book bag. It's a kind of a medium-sized JanSport bag, which actually I should replace. I've had it for a long time. It's kind of tired. I looked at it. I bought it on Amazon in like 2009, I think. So I've had it for a while. Thirsty, but so that's what I keep. It's much bigger. It's a much bigger kit than the small one I had there, obviously, because it's just bigger tubes and need more paint, bigger surfaces. And then I have it's called a dry or wet panel carrier. And basically it's like a little suitcase that's got some dividers in it that I can put wet paintings into. So if I take my painting kit to the top of a mountain or a trail or something like that, I can keep all the wet paintings in there. If I'm driving with them, I keep all the paintings inside this panel carrier. It's a much larger, heavier kit. So I've been doing a lot of gouaches lately just because it's easier for me to carry it around. But I like doing the oils too. I had a good time doing this one. I was really worried about it when I started this painting right here. And then I think it came out okay. Actually, initially planned to do a couple sessions on it, but that one came out okay. Again, this other one I planned to do, a few sessions on it, but it just wasn't drying fast enough for my needs. I guess I could go back in and sharpen some things up after a small bit of sanding, but this is another one I actually started there. I didn't finish. Let me pull back here. So this is another one I started at the same time. I was actually setting it up for another painting session. So I made like these areas really bright and warm, like here and here and here, on purpose. So when I came back in, I would do some glazing. So I put some transparent paint over it, and then paint another layer into it. So I really was just like, this is how I was setting it up. So I spent about an hour and a half or so on this, and then I was going to go back later in that week and work on it some more, but it just never dried fast enough for me. I thought about just playing around with it, just dropping some glazes on here just to see what I might pull out of it just out of memory and imagination. But I haven't gone back to it, so but again, I hadn't done a lot of oil painting lately, so there's the ones that I showed here. Like this is from like a little over a year ago when I first moved out here, and then this is more recent. But I was kind of doing a bunch of them at this point. Hoping to get out some more once the summer rolls in, because I teach, and so I've got my summers free for me to do as I please. I do have some things I need to get to, but taking my little camper out and do some painting. In fact, I have a whole Instagram dedicated to my camper, so I'll type this into the Instagram chat here. But it's at Xterra Vich. So I converted a Nissan Xterra, which is a small SUV, into a camper. In fact, maybe I've got some pictures on here. So I'm just going to finish up here real quick. I think I've got some. Alright, stop. There we go. Grab that. There we go. Yeah, I've got a few pictures on here. There are various states of completion. But let's see. Let's turn off that light so it's easier to see. What we got in here? Oh, there we go. That's a little more current. So this is my camper. So it's again, it's an SUV. So over here on the side is a bed. Oops. This is where the bed is. This is a kitchen box that rolls in, a table that kind of folds down. And so setting up is mostly me just opening it up, putting out a chair and a little table, and I'm ready to roll. This is out in the desert, so you can see kind of the desert landscape off to the side. Actually, let me get the other light in here just so it's more easy to see the screen. There we go. That should be a little easier to see what's going on here. Let me move my headphones elsewhere. We're not going to get tangled. And kind of finish up here. There we go. That's easier to see, right, for everybody? Your screen's a little dark on the TV side, but maybe I can brighten this up some. There, I think that's better. So yeah, you can kind of see inside there. There's the bed here, and this folds in. You can see this is dropped down. There's a little sink. Underneath underneath the bottom of the truck outside is a big water tank. But it's really great because I can literally just park anywhere and start camping. But this is when I was installing the screen that's on the back there, so I had to make that and then installed it. So it's a magnetic bug screen that also blocks out the light. There's kind of the inside view. So again, this is about the size of a cot. So it's 30 inches wide, so a little less than a meter wide, and then just long enough for me to sleep comfortably in there. There's the kitchen box rolled in. There's some cabinetry there. There's actually some more cabinetry over here now. This is a little bit older picture. And curtains up there that aren't there anymore. It's a different setup in the front a little bit. So, again, some things are a little bit different than what it is right now. So, like, there should be a cabinet right there, and then there's a different roof panel back there. This is a little bit more finished. I've finished up this hatch thing, too. This has got fabric on it. But maybe we've got a shot over here that shows that. Oh, that's at my sister's house. This is me building it in my yard in Florida. So taking things apart, putting it back together many times. There's the cushions. So the bed folds into a couch, which is quite cozy. This is a big project. It took me a while to get it to where it is now. So I did an initial build. So here I'm working on the screen cover. This is in my parents' garage. There's kind of building it in progress. There it is out in Utah. Out in a mountain. We can almost see a little bit of the plumbing underneath in the back. I should put some newer pictures in here just so it's a little better organized. I'm pretty proud of my little screen covers, some sketches and things I was doing as I was planning it out. I just stuck in there. There's the power system. It's a bit of a mess. With the batteries over here on the right, this is an inverter, so it changes the battery from 12 volt to 110. So I can put like a water heater and plug that in. So that's it pulled out. It's a little bit neater than this now. It's still a bit of a mess, but it's cleaned up a bit. This is the original build that I did. So this is all regular plywood. And it was the first time I did the build. You can see the cushions. I just wrapped them in saran wrap to keep them clean. I keep stuff from spilling on them initially before I did the fabric. Sewed up the covers. So that's what happened. That's the covers. This is how it folds up. Again, this is the older build on the inside, but this is how the cushions worked out for me. And there's the more current build, so you can see the difference in the wood. The plywood there versus the hardwoods and the nicer plywoods and things going on the inside. There's the new cabinet. And there's my dog. It's out camping here in Virginia. Cooking some food and going out painting. Nice little evening shot there of the truck build. It's super comfy. It's got a bike rack on the tire hanger, so I can bring a bicycle, which you can kind of see over here. So if I want to ride somewhere on a trail, like sometimes where I'm at, like you can get a cell phone connection. There's the dog. To mountaintops. There's the water. There's the gouache painting kit right there that I was just showing. So that's up right there. And good dog. Might hear him scratching himself right now. So this project took up a lot of my time and energy for a couple of years. I was doing a lot of research and then started building it during the second year of the pandemic times. And it's basically done now, and just get to use it. There's some things I need to like touch up and clean up and fix up a bit, but essentially, it's all the way done. Like I can just throw some clothes. It's got a fridge freezer inside of there, sink right there. It can drain underneath. Again, the cabinetry stores everything on the inside. It has an air heater inside, diesel air heater. And it was a big project. Took a lot of time and planning. It wasn't as expensive as you might think. I did have to gut my entire car. And so the entire backside, I just removed all of the panels, all of the seats, everything, and then was able to build out on build out of that way. And there's little solar panels over here, right there. So these fold up, and then I have a outlet on top of the car where I can either put this on top, or leave this wherever I want out in the sun. use that to power things up. But it's super comfy. There's the more current screen, or the light blocking thing up there. Little shelf for hanging clothes. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, what's funny is this kind of car, they don't actually make these anymore. A Nissan Xterra stopped making them. I think 2015 is the last year. This is a 2006. Actually, I had the engine die on it last fall, so that was really expensive. There was some metal got in the system somehow and ruined the entire engine. But yeah, if you're curious about that, I do have that other Instagram I put in the chat, the Xterovich. You're welcome to check that out. It's just my build process and then the little trips I've been taking it on. In fact, I need to update it with a couple of posts because I went out to New York City, spent a couple of days there, and then went camping for a few days where I did those paintings with the dog. And yeah, it's a good project. It's one you recommend doing if it's something you're interested in. It is a lot of work, and it is very, 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 very time consuming. But I really like having it, and taking it out and going camping really easy in it. Because I just pull up and I'm ready to roll. I've got everything I need, for a week or so. With this, so I've got 12 gallons of water, or a little bit more than that actually now, and water filters and the whole thing. So I am satisfied with my project. Could be a little bit more perfect, but it's the first time I've done something quite like that. But anyway, it's getting late. Time for me to hit the hay, go to sleep. I'll be back with a morning study project. First thing in the morning, I hope, doing some sketching from photos or something. And we'll catch you all later.